Ladies and or gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Xeno, and here is my monthly tier list and or summon guide for DFFOO. This one being for the end of March and the majority of April, starting with Zack's BT cycle and ending in Laguna's BT cycle. In this video, I'm going to go over the BT cycles themselves, giving you my advice on how to summon depending on which BT you are going to chase, if you chase any at all. As a side note though, you should never chase more than one BT unit per month in case it does cost the full 125k pity and gems. And this is also assuming you have no BT tokens available. At the very end of the video, I will give you a flat 3 banners total, 1 to gem, 2 for tickets, regardless of the BTs. Those numbers are based on the fact that on average, the free-to-play users get enough gems to pity 1 LD per month and acquire enough tickets to spend on between 1 to 2 other banners, if not more, depending on your luck. I'm trying to restructure these lists from last month to give people more options, because characters are becoming increasingly stronger and more wanted going forward, and it becomes a lot harder to do. So I just want to say though, before we jump too far in, last month's video hit over 2,000 views, which for a channel of my size is absolutely blown me the hell away. I did not expect for it to get that kind of traction. The comments, the likes, the new subscriptions. So thank you very much for checking it out. And for anyone that stuck around from last month, you guys are the real MVP. So thank you so very much. So with all that explaining out the way, let's just jump into it. This monthly tier summon list thing, whatever I'm going to call it, has 10 plus guaranteed banners. I say plus because it depends on the seasonal banners, campaigns, and stuff like that. If you can't already tell from the length of this video, this is going to be a very long video. So it's very difficult to explain character kits for the most part in rapid succession. So please bear with me. I only make these videos once a month. So I like to think that your time spent here watching this long video is worthwhile. Keep in mind though also, Squex does love to change things around from Global from time to time. So in regards to Charlotta and Selfie's LD campaign banner that JP originally got, we do have something, but the units themselves have not been confirmed, though it probably is Charlotta and Selfie. So as such, I won't be covering them to not waste time. But long story short, Charlotta is a decent HP damage up support. She gets an FR and a BT plus later down the line. Selfie is an absolute broken launch goddess. So summon at your own discretion if we get them, when we get them. As for Cloud and Squall's BT plus reruns with Vayne and Cloud of Darkness, I already discussed them last month. So unless they're favorites, you skip these banners. Vayne and COD both get FRs later this year. So wait until then. They're just not worth it now. And Cloud and Squall both haven't had a JP update, so we don't know what their future's like. Okay, so let's get this goddamn show on the road already. Banner number 1, Zack BT Plus and Rydia LD. This comes with the Divine Leviathan event. For newcomers to the game, these events, when fully farmed, net you roughly 46,000 gems and 500 tickets. This is the big pot of resources we get every few months, so please take advantage. Let's start with Rydia. She is a magic attacker. She has Party Water Enchant. Her new LD gives several new things. Firstly, it gives a new debuff called Water Weakness. This allows you to bypass water and elemental resistance completely. If the boss is strong to water, she bypasses it. She will always hit weakness damage with the party, as long as this debuff is up. She also grants a new party buff called Blink. This comes at 3 stacks for each party member. It gives 100% evasion, it has no turn limit, and it lasts indefinitely until it's been used up. Each time a party member evades an attack, the stacks drop by 1 until 3 evasions, and then it gets dispelled and you have to reapply. She's quite strong. Let's soldier on to Zack and his brand new BT though. Now, Zack isn't interesting as he's a returning LD character turned into a BT unit. If you're unfamiliar, Zack is a lock debuff tank that focuses on taking less damage and has brave shields. He is also more offensive based, dealing very high damage on his skills, and now with his upgraded AoE EX and extra dumps on his LD, he also has decent AoE damage. His BT gives a lot of great party buffs, including the ever broken HP cap up, However, it's the BT effect that makes Zack stand out the brightest. Zack's BT is the definition of what the fuck were they thinking? It turns Zack into a party-wide, damage-absorbing, unkillable tank. The only way to kill Zack is if a Lufenia orb goes off, or if the team gets hit by a single target attack because his lock debuff fell off for some really weird, strange reason. Zack's BT effect redirects all AoE damage to himself, so now he also takes all damage, so think of Barsh's LD. He also cannot be killed even if his HP falls to 0, kind of like Arden's LD. And because this isn't tied to a buff that can be dispelled, it's tied to a BT effect that can only be ran out. This is ridiculously strong. Now, content was also already very easy for the vast majority of veterans and long-term players, and this kit and character scream more overkill. So by any chance that you weren't having fun with the game, this character is just another one of those really overpowered characters. This is like Garnet level, so fucking stupid. He can also easily do upwards of just 1 million damage per skill. Now he has ultimate weapon, 5 out of 5 ultimate weapon, great sword, very popular weapon. Chuck him next to units like Ramza and Garnet's HP cap ups. He's just going to be an absolute monster. He's just going to destroy everything. No content is going to come anywhere close to beating you. So he's very self-sufficient. Even if he's dispelled, his self-buffs aren't even that important. So as long as you have any relevant support in your party to rebuff him, he's good to go. Zack is just a monster, straight up. He will carry you through anything as long as you can upkeep Lufenia orbs. He's borderline broken as far as meta is concerned. The only downside that I can think of is if you do not get Zack's BT, you will probably never use him. His best qualities are locked behind his BT effect. While he will still stand as a good DPS tank with LD only, it is an absolute night and day difference on what you can do and get out with him. Get out with him? Get with him out? You know what I'm trying to say. I can't say it. English is hard. So let's move on. Banner number 2, Ramza BT plus and Trey LD. I've labeled this as a skip, which might surprise some people because in a nutshell, Ramza's like an absolute support god. His BT buffs are absurdly high levels, and he now has very high personal damage considering what he offers to the party already. But we'll circle back to that and let's shoot to Trey first. Trey specializes in off-turn damage through traps and instant breaking through his EX debuff. He's a very solid AoE DPS trap unit with off-turn damage. He can battery the party and break the enemy in off turns. Sadly though, that's kind of it when it comes to Trey. Like, he gets nice upgrades to his traps, more damage or HP dumps. The LD has more HP dumps, the EX. That's kind of all he does though, and we get far more better and more consistent off-turn damage dealers later that scale better, especially for BT phase damage stacking, and have even more relevant buffs or debuffs. Trey also sadly has a bow ultimate weapon, which barely anyone's going to be building or using, so the results is his damage ceiling won't be very high for nearly all players unless you are willing to really overcommit to that ultimate weapon because he's a favorite, which is probably not the best idea. So, Ramza. I've mentioned he is a god support. He has superbly high HP cap up on his BT effect. This is Ramza's strongest utility. However, it is tied to a party buff count. The more buffs the party has, the higher the HP cap percent rises. With his blue armor, I believe it caps out at a whopping 51%, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. If you loved using Garnet in your party or as a friend before, Ramza has more HP cap up than Garnet does. And the best thing is, you get to now combine them together to just ruffle stomp fucking anything. So no content's going to stand in your way. Ramza himself, though, also gets more HP dumps on his like HP triple plus skill 1 EXLD, so nice damage boosts. His LD in particular is quite strong, being a 5 HP dump party battery launch with 2 turn delay, which to me is insane. The reason I say skip, though, is because Ramza's biggest strength and damage is 5 button presses, BT finisher, 3 LD uses, and his improved EX. He's a perfect friend unit and will undoubtedly be one of the best friends for the next couple of months going forward. Tag Ramza are in, use his BT effect, make sure everyone is buffed up, go into your own personal BT phase with your main DPS unit in your party, dish out 10 to 20 million damage, easy mode, and God forbid if anything survives, Ramza has 3 launches and a very strong EX skill. This is why I think he's better suited as a friend unit, and Ramza being quite popular, you'll be able to use him all the time in your friends list because a lot of people are going to be BT plussing Ramza themselves because a lot of people already had Ramza's BT. It's better to have Ramza as a friend unit opposed to your main party slot, and getting someone like Zack in your main party instead is that you can kind of combine them both. Now, I know I just spent a lot of time discussing 2 banners out of the like 10 or 11 I said today, but Zack and Ramza are extremely powerful and have been hyped up since JP's release and massive favorites to many, so I wanted to give them their due diligence in explaining and giving my opinions on them. So the following banners will be a little bit faster, please bear with me. I know it's a long video, but I'm making sure that you get all the information I think you need for a full month of summoning. Banner number 3. Reigns' Lost Chapter. Sid Reigns' LD and Steiner's LD. It comes with Zack's BT. Sid Reigns, he is infamous for his game-breaking damage and turn manipulation with Bart's and Aphmau combos on his release. He's also one of the best current calls if you do not have a way to guarantee launches inside of a BT phase. As a unit himself, he gets more upgrades to his damage. Keep in mind, with his EX, a lot of people forget this, his EX ability does cleanse the party of debuffs and dispels the enemy. It's very powerful in its utility. A lot of people forget it does that. His whole kit is powerful, especially with the turn manipulation, but I just don't think Sid Reigns is who he used to be. And while he's more than usable and you can equip an ultimate weapon to him, I still think he's better as a core slot on your main BT unit. He kind of had his time to shine already. Steiner LD's been benched forever, and he's finally getting an LD weapon in a C90. Steiner has a lot of party buffs. He has battery, attack, max brave. He has like mega defense, bro. It's like 200% or something. Stolen and gained overflows, HP regen, HP damage resistance, brave gains. Steiner has a lot of shit going for him. The most important thing to me though is part of his LD buff. After each turn, it's a full party brave regen based on Steiner's max brave. It essentially refills all the brave to near or full after every action. So think of what Garnet and Bart's refund from their BT effect. It's kind of the same concept. Banner number 4, Enna Kros release event, which is Enna's LD, Reno LD, Zack BT. Now let's talk Turks first. Reno returns with his C90. He's a debuffer, damage mitigator, unique physical delayer, and a minor dispeller with thunder damage in his kit. He is most useful when against bosses that do physical attacks. With his numb debuff, after each boss attacks with a physical move, they get delayed by 2 turns. His LD dispels 1 buff from all targets and leaves a debuff called Pyramid. This gives a brave and HP damage boost to the party and leaves the enemy unable to debuff the party. It also reduces all brave and HP damage taken to 0 until the next boss attacking action. This is very handy and this is very crippling in the right fights. Enna Kros, she's a brand new unit to the game. She's a unique DPS kit character, that's a thing. She does dark and holy damage, and her skills summon a literal god mech thing the size of the screen. I'm not joking, go look up her gameplay. She has wild animations, it's amazing. She can delete turns with her EX skill. Otherwise, Enna's main gimmick is she has a 20% chance to refill her EX gauge after every action. The downside is, it's got a slow cast rate otherwise, so you're going to be relying on that RNG proc. Her EX does, if you fully invest in her though, can do massive damage, but again, it's RNG based. She's a weird damage dealer style of unit with RNG. She has double elements. She also rounds up her damage to the nearest 1,000 number, meaning she can actually exceed the brave cap, which is kind of unique, I guess. Her calls are quite solid. Her LD call in particular gives an attack, HP damage, double enchant, and the 20% chance to refill the EX gauge after a turn. This can be easily imbued inside BT phases. With good RNG, you can get an extra 2 to 3 EX recasts off inside of a BT phase. So Null comes to mind with his BT, because Null's biggest damage is his EX ability. To get an extra 1 or 2 extra EXs off inside of his BT phase is literally another 1 to 2 plus million damage. So for some units, this can be a lot. But again, you're playing with RNG. And a whole kit in general is RNG, so it's a personal thing. Okay, so now to the tricky part. Zack's BT cycle. If you are missing Zack's full kit, gem his debut banner all the way to pity. However, remember, we get free multis for the full cycle. So stop at the LD pity at 300 G tokens, assuming you didn't get his LD earlier, and wait for the final free multis that are finished, and then or any other ticket summons that you may be doing on Enna and Ramza's LC banners. Now, if you already have Zack's LD, like I do, for example, it's kind of a tough choice on which banner is best to pity his BT on, as they're kind of middle-of-the-road banners. It's going to come down to roster needs between the 4 different LDs across the 2 banners, but I'm going to take a stance and say that Enna is the best banner to not only gem for his BT, but also throw some tickets just to test your luck to get her kit and Zack's BT as well. Because Reno's is good utility, and Enna can be fun with her RNG, and her call can be fun on some characters. If you're missing Sid Reigns' LD, however, I suggest gemming there for Zack's BT if you already had Zack's LD, because he's still one of the best calls for BT units. However, Steiner alone, like Steiner's LD and full kit alone, is not worth a BT pity banner. I believe that's better done on Reno and Enna crosses. So that's my opinion for Zack's BT cycle. Finally, we move on to Laguna's BT plus cycle, another favorite for many, many people. So banner number 5, Laguna BT plus with Lena LD. Lena's up first. She is a great debuff, evasion, battery, and healing based support. She has a ton of pure... She has a type of pure damage through her upgraded HP attack from her LD. And she also has very high auras and HP damage to the party. Basically, the only thing Lena's missing is Brave gains, which sucks because it's my favorite thing. She's a very solid support. There's not much else to say. Laguna gets an LD into BT. Now, Laguna is a ranged attacker focusing on strong framed debuffs. His LD gives a follow-up attack on every skill he uses, so he has more personal damage. And a new framed debuff that has more attack, defense, and HP damage that is stacked into one framed debuff. That maxes at 24% each when the enemies have more debuffs. So you combine that, and he already had 50-60% plus on some of his other debuffs. He's a very potent stack of crippling debuffs. Now, his BT adds another framed debuff. This time, it's a gold framed debuff. Only Sephiroth and Kandaj have this. Gold framed debuffs means they can never be dispelled, period. They can only run out duration-wise. This debuff adds more defense down, more HP damage up, but it also, more importantly, acts as a trap. After the boss takes any HP attacks from party skills, this follows up with a HP attack once per turn. Laguna now has off-turn damage. So Laguna becomes an extremely strong DPS debuffing unit with off-turn damage from a gold debuff. He scales very well as a friend unit as well, as the HP damage will go off inside of a BT phase to stack to just huge effect. His calls are very strong as well for laying down massive amounts of framed debuffs to cripple the enemies or just block the enemies from buffing themselves. Very strong unit. Banner number 6 is Terra BT Plus and Shadow. This is a quick one. This is a skip. They're both returning units, and while Terra is quite strong, especially if you can equip an ultimate weapon on her, and she actually pairs hilariously well with Laguna's BT gold framed off-turn damage debuff, because she takes so many turns back to back to back. She gets an FR later on, so it's best to consider Terra then. Shadow is kind of the same thing, where it's just like, he's C9ing improves his kit, so he does like more damage, but all in all, he is an evasion-based counter unit, and he's a little bit too selfish for me, and I just don't see the point in him when you have fucking Zack sitting next to him like a god. So I just don't think either of these units are worth throwing tickets on, period. Banner number 7, Irvine LD and Saz LD with Laguna BT. This banner focuses on range support, which is fitting because Laguna is the BT unit. Saz is the returning one. He focuses on very high party buffs with crit rate and crit damage, along with a unique Brave Steel effect that allows more personal damage for everyone. He now gets a little bit more party auras added to his buff totals as well, more personal damage. If you manage to cap out Saz's EX Brave hits, it can actually hit really hard AoE damage, and it's up every like 2 turns. But Saz unfortunately suffers from having nearly too many party buffs, which can be conflicting in the wrong teams and then potentially offer diminishing returns. Irvine gets a brand new LD. He is a ranged debuffer that has some healing in his kit from his EX. He is also offering ranged resist imperil, same as Fran from Final Fantasy XII. His LD turns his Brave and HP attacks into new ammo skills called Pulse and Dark Ammo. His LD itself gives those skills more uses. Essentially like adding ammo to like a gun, so that's kind of what he was going for there. So these skills are fine damage buttons. They offer some new debuffs with HP damage up, blind, but overall though, like if you're gonna go for a ranged debuff gun user, Laguna's like right fucking there, and he's just far superior, and he has a BT, and they're in the same cycle, so why? You'd go for Laguna, you wouldn't go for Irvine. Although Irvine's call's not bad, but it's nothing game breaking. Finally, banner number 8, Thancred's raid event, which is Thancred's LD, Maria LD, and Laguna BT. Maria, she's kinda hot. That's one of the very few upsides I can say at this time. She's not a bad healing ranged support bow unit, and her preemptive gravity trap effect from her LD is decent. But Lena was the week prior, and she's on the same banner as Laguna, with just as good party auras or totals, if not better, and she has debuff evasion, which is universally more helpful. I'm just not sure why you would summon for her if you didn't want her already on release, and her personal damage is higher, but it's still not that high, and I'm pretty sure Lena still does more damage than her anyway, so I can't say Marie is the best. Thancred is a case of, once again, too little too late. He is easily the worst Scion of the bunch, and sadly in my own opinion, he's one of the worst LDs. Is he unusable? Of course not. You can use anyone in the garbage time. If he's a fave, blow his armor, give him a base ultimate weapon, chuck him next to some god supports like Ramza and Garnet, and have fun smashing content. The issue is his damage just isn't high enough. Period. You really have to dig deep to maximize it, to consider it passable as a primary DPS unit, because his debuffs aren't good enough for debuffing. He has basically no party utility that's truly worthwhile, so he boils down to a DPS unit, but you have to overcommit to really get anything out of him. His LD does give him a stacking buff that increases with turns. He can do this unique trick attack HP command when it's at 5 stacks. It leaves a HP damage debuff instant turn, which allows him and others to hit harder. He has a basic Brave Poison debuff, but it's not HP poison like Ida or Alphino. So he's just kind of like, eh. So rounding up Laguna's BT cycle, now for the fun part. If you decided to chase Laguna and not Zack this month, here is what I'd do. Gem Laguna's banner. Obviously, as his LD is brand new, or throw tickets until you get the LD and then gem Irvine's banner for the BT. I would not touch Thancred's banner, period, regardless of where you wanted to gem or ticket for this cycle. If you get Laguna's LD for free or early in the banner, ticket Irvine or gem him to pity, either or. Just remember the free multis, wait to token or BT pity until they're over and the last banners. You don't want to end up with a dupe after blowing your resources. It's happened to me before, and it's the worst feeling in the world. So, we've discussed both banners. I've given you my personal advice and plans. At the start of the video, I said I'd give you a flat 3 banners to pick from, regardless of BTs in any cycle. 1 gem and 2 tickets. This was a real tough one, as the best unit of the month, which is Zack, he needs his BT. Ramza is a god, but he's probably better as a friend unit. Laguna's really good, but his gold debuff is tied to his BT. But I still think if you're going to go gems, Laguna, along with his LD, alongside Lena, with a chance at Laguna's BT, would be the best gem investment banner of the month. Laguna's just very solid debuffing DPS unit with great core potential outside the main party. And he'd also be a great person to swap out for a friend unit when you're about to go into your burst phase and you want to swap in like a Ramza friend or maybe a Laguna that has a BT. Lena's a great support if you missed her, and her debuff evasion is always really solid to have. So that's my personal recommendation. I didn't choose Zack because without the BT, you're just not going to use Zack at all. You can use Laguna with just LD though, that's the difference. For tickets, we've got 2 banners. Reigns is LC, because I still think Reigns is a good call for BT phase and turn manipulation. And Steiner is a really solid damage support unit that will keep your main DPS hitting harder, help keeping the party alive with damage mitigations, and keeping your Brave topped up so you can hit maximum damage. Also, with a small chance at Zack's BT, if you already had his LD prior, that doesn't hurt it doesn't hurt either. The second ticket banner is Irvine's Intersecting Wills. Irvine's decent, Saz is decent. So despite what I just said though, they are both decent characters, both have good calls, buffs, and utility. And if you combine this ticket banner with the Laguna gem banner, you have a much higher chance to get Laguna's BT, which means you have a much higher chance to get a full BT character kit and some decent characters along the way. Sadly, the rest of the banners, I just don't know if I'd summon for the LD alone, assuming no BT was involved. Like Enna is kind of close, but a kit's a little too selfish, it's RNG dependent. Reno's great, but he gets an FR later and becomes far better later down the line. But yeah, look, that's it. That's my non-biased as possible selections of skips, summons, and general advice from a more meta perspective, giving you a clear-cut, non-fence sitting option of what I would do depending on what the BT I would chase, if you chase any at all. I'm out of breath, but guys, this video, the script, the editing, and the research took 5, 6, 7 hours to do. It took a full day to do, so I'd really appreciate any and all support on this, as I only make these videos once a month. So you don't sit through these videos very often, so I appreciate it if you did. Remember to like, sub, and comment down below what you were thinking of doing for the full month ahead. Hope you guys found the video informative and helpful nonetheless. Hope you guys are having a fan-freaking-tastic day as always. Remember to join the Discord so I can chat to you all more there. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, my name is Xeno. You guys take care now.